Vision. We will continue the interview with Mukhtar via voice call this morning. And just before we went on that break, Mukhtar was trying to explain the the reasons why there must be economic stability for industrial growth in Nigeria. If you'd like to take it from where you were at that point, Mukhtar, I would like for you to please conclude on your points now.
Okay, the point I was making is that industrial stability has to do with stages in the economy you have, and also have to do with two main actors, the physical and the monetary policies. Now, what we're experiencing in Nigeria is actually stability that has come in terms of monetary policy. We know what to expect. It's either rate goes down or we continue to maintain rate, and so that also we have the businesses plan. In terms of fiscal side, we see what they are trying to do, the tax law, infrastructural development. So we are not having those challenges that have to do with exchange rate volatility, inflation, hyperinflation and pressure like what we experienced before now. So definitely when you see such stability because of the kind of economics processes stages that we've gone through, businesses and investors seem to be the one to benefit, especially investors. And you can look at what is happening in our FX market, where we've seen stability because of inflow from foreign portfolio investors and some foreign direct investors, and also you can see the returns that we are having in the Nigerian stock exchange. Then you go to businesses, you realize that businesses that were suffering before because of exchange revaluation are now making profits. So those are the two main factors that you see. Then you say, okay, we are beginning to get to industrial stability, and then you now see that we trickle down to the ordinary Nigerian. But it's not just a straight line policy whereby because businesses are doing well, because investors are making money, you just think that the average Nigerian will begin to benefit from it. Because you ask yourself, how many average Nigerians are really in businesses? How many average Nigerians do have the fund to be investors? So for now, you see it doesn't really, sometimes it says, oh, the economy is stable, but it doesn't meet the reality on the ground.
Okay.
So what do you think government should do to make this stability reflect on the standard of living of Nigerians? Because we have seen different figures being quoted by the coordinating minister of the economy, Mr. Wale Edun, last week when he had an interactive session with newsmen, saying that the economy, like you rightly pointed out, is stable. They cited some reasons why the economy is stable, such as deflation and increase in foreign reserves of Nigeria. But then, to an average Nigerian, this is not making sense. So what can government do to make it sensible to Nigerians?
I think Jibola, it has to also do with monetary policies. As it stands now, we still have that monetary policy where interest rate is still very high for businesses to borrow. We are battling, no matter how much we've seen, battling with inflation and pressure. So for government to be able to do that, then government needs to also evoke their own fiscal policy, which will have to do like what, like you said, the minister is talking about, exchange, having a reserve, and still have the challenges that you have with a high interest rate. And what that means that the cost of borrowing is high. And so when cost of borrowing is high, the businesses will pass it back to the consumer. And so that's what we are doing. So when we see those stability until now, what we need to see is that we need to see rate comes down. If rate comes down, then businesses will be able to borrow at a cheaper rate. We need to see the tariff also. That's where the fiscal side have to really come in. If you want that, what you are doing to hit the average Nigeria, for them to see the impact, then tariff need to come down, especially in imported goods, especially food items and other. Once that happen, because we largely import, so once that happen, we'll see that the cost of goods will come down, and then the take-home pay of the average Nigerian will be able to afford this good, because at that time costs have come down. So because again, Nigerian volatility or exchange rate or inflation is largely driven by it's largely driven by exchange rate, no matter how you see it. And that's why the minister is saying that, okay, we now have a robust reserve. Now, how do we now use that repository to create stability, because as it stands now, the stability is fragile. Because when we talk about stability, we are seeing a fragile stability which can be distorted with any external issues that will happen that is beyond our control. And Jibola, you know that Nigeria our oil seems to be our main source of revenue. So any challenge you have in that sector will have an impact on the overall economy. What we are seeing now, if you look at what government is saying, improvement in crude oil production is also fueling those stability. So if anything goes wrong in that sector, then you see that the challenge will come back, because crude oil output for government budgetary allocation was supposed to be 2.3 million barrels. We're just celebrating about 1.5 million barrels. Some say 1.5 million barrels. When you have condensers into it, you get to 1.7 million barrels. It's still a far cry of about 500,000 barrels. So, but what we have seen that have brought that stability, we have to commend the government. That's what I talk about physical side, is because of the naira to crude dollar policy that is helping local refineries, especially Dangote refinery, to be able to purchase crude oil, turn it to refined petroleum product through naira. So we need to see some of those small policy come up, especially touching smaller businesses, because the informal sector is the key driver of the Nigerian economy. Once those policies touch the SMEs, the market women, then the ordinary Nigerian on the street will begin to feel the impact.
All right, Mukhtar, I'm glad you mentioned the interest rate, which at the moment stands at 27.5, and in the third quarter of the year, the CBN, of course, through its monetary policy, has consistently stayed on 27.5. And you also did mention just before you ended seconds ago that there's a need to consolidate on the small businesses. And so if we're talking about industrial stability and the fact that the small businesses are the drivers of the economy, how much impact does the CBN need to make in ensuring that they work assiduously on bringing down the interest rates? 27.5 is not what any small trader can actually afford to get a loan or to pay back. So in terms of its monetary policy and validation, what should the CBN be concentrating on at ensuring that for some reason at least there is a downward review of the interest rate?
Okay, thank you. The CBN, I mean, we have to commend them.
Okay.
When they came in, the kind of mess they made in there, and you saw those volatility, you saw exchange rate almost hitting 2,000. I mean, for naira to dollar, then you saw the pounds getting to about 2,200. At the point, people were even forecasting that exchange rate would get to 5,000. But today, you could see that, like I said, we have those stability because of inflow of liquidity into the Nigerian economy, especially the retail side of the FX market, which is the key driver of those volatility that we saw before now. Now, the CBN looked at that. Now, the CBN will have to look at the ways tackle exchange rate. They will look at bringing down inflation. They will look at growth. Now, they looked at those policies, but they know that if you're able to get exchange rate stable, then you will now see that it will create a snowball effect on driving down inflation and also in the long run bringing down interest rate. So they looked at it and realized that, okay, how do we create that stability? We have to concentrate on the FX market. And in concentrating on the FX market, how we will be able to bring stability in the FX market? We need to look at the competitive nature of our currency. So what the CBN did thus far was to make the currency competitive. Now remember, I said competitive, not yet stable. Now when you make it competitive, you have now the market forces to bid for it, and then you are able to enter there and create stability by bringing in inflow when you think the naira is going beyond what you think it should be. And now they have been able to achieve that. Now the next task is now to make sure that they make the naira stable. Now they are doing that, but with a little of caution, because if you look at the interest rate, it's not yet to the government budget benchmark of 1,500. We are still some percentage away from it. The that. So that's what they are concentrating in doing.
Okay.
If they do that naturally, that means they will cut rates, they will bring down rates. Once rate cuts comes down, then the interest rate comes down.
Right.
Now, when we go to this point of we are not seeing any interest rate cut every month, then you begin to see how businesses will be borrow and how businesses will be able to pay back and how that will have impacts on the life of your Nigeria.
Okay.
So as it stands now, the CBN is doing what they have to do. Now that's why I come in that it's not just the CBN alone, the monetary side.
Right.
Now when you look at the monetary side, what we have seen are all policies. And when policies comes, you don't see the result of policy immediately. You're talking about small business policy. You speak about the tax reform act that have been passed into law. That is going to help smaller business reduce the kind of taxes they pay or levies they pay, driving it down. That will help them also begin to grow. And also, you look at infrastructural development. You look at Nigerian force policy of the government. All those are physical policies that will, at the end of the day, help the local economy. So it's a gradual process. So government needs to concentrate on some of the fiscal policy and see how they impact the smaller businesses.
Okay.
But as it stands now, we are seeing that stability. Hopefully, we know before the end of this year, I'm very hopeful that we'll see the first rate cut for a very, very long time.
Okay, it's quite commendable that you are hopeful that the economy will get better before the end of 2025. But then, looking at the foreign direct investment drive of this government, would you say that it has in any way contributed to the fragile stability that we enjoy so far? That's on one hand. On the other hand, some people have also raised concerns about the level of borrowing of this government. How does that come to you?
Okay, let me start with foreign direct investment. We have not seen the kind of result we expect, especially with the trips that the president have taken since he came to power, and also with the kind of agreement that have been signed that we thought we hit the ground running with them. But like I said, policies, statements always take time to come up. You said, I signed an agreement. There are a lot behind the scene that may have been going before you begin to see the impact of those agreements. And most of the impact we want to see in those agreements, we have to see the investor coming in to establish companies and bringing in FX, and that boosts our foreign reserve, creating jobs. Those are some of the impact we will need to see. We are not seeing that yet, but we are not seeing foreign direct investment like we ought to see. But you remember, again, we shouldn't forget that we are coming from zero foreign direct investment, especially during the time of former President Muhammadu Buhari. We saw that it go as low as only going low as 97%. There was no foreign direct investment in Nigeria. So that also, if you look at it commensurate, bringing it with by the results that we are seeing now, then you said, okay, they have done, but there's still a lot of work to do for us to see the impact on the economy. In the area of borrowing, I keep saying borrowing in itself is not a bad idea, but borrowing for consumption, borrowing for capital expenditure is the challenge. Now, if you say you are borrowing to get Lagos Ibadan Expressway working, I'm just giving an example. Right. That means it has an effect on the economy. You tow the roads, and then you earn funds. You gain some funds from there, and those funds could help also service those debts. Now, but when you borrow and you are using it in areas that you are not seeing those impact, that's where the challenge is. Okay. Now, and then when you are looking at borrowing, not in the area of improvement of your revenue to pay, that you're just looking at the GDP, it's a big challenge, because GDP will not pay your
bills.
Will not pay for it. So you need to realize that, okay, if I am borrowing, how much impact will this have in the economy, both in monetary value and economic value? Because when you talk about monetary value, you look at how much of the businesses that will come in this that will be able to pay tax, and then we'll be able to use that tax to pay to pay the interest and pay up this borrowing. So that for me is my main challenge.
Okay.
We have seen borrowing, unprecedented borrowing, but where are they being channeled to? Yes, you talk about power, which I think for now in government should have hands of power and look at social investment in health and education and take the power place to the private sector. In every developed economy as it stands now, government all over the world have realized that they don't have the funds to drive projects, especially infrastructural projects. So they are doing the PPP, public-private partnerships. So for me, that is one area that government is not looking at. Government is rather looking at doing this project themselves and doing a lot of borrowing. Jibola and your colleague in the studio, you know what PPP has done for Lagos State. All you need to look at is to look at the Apapa to Urushoki road, which was handled by Dangote at the point. And you can see how much that has saved government. So when government begin to do such project, they see PPP, then government will be able to use their scarce resources into beefing up health and education. So that is my challenge with the Nigerian government as it stands now. The easy way out of an economic problem is to just go and borrow. But the better way out of it is to look at your private sector, partner with them, and see how you can push infrastructure.
Okay, Mukhtar, as we wrap up this conversation this morning, let me quickly build on Jibola's last question, talking about FDIs, that is foreign direct investments. And so if government is pushing for FDIs into the country, how much of strength should government also push into strengthening local industries, especially in the face of stability of such companies?
I think it is simple. Government need to come up with policies that will help local industry being competitive.
Don't we have enough policies on ground at the moment?
Investors. Because as it stands now, the local companies are not competitive enough because of FX policy and then high cost of production. Power is still an issue, and where it's not an issue, cost of it is still high. So if you bring in a foreign direct investment, a foreign direct investor wants to come to your economy, we look at that. But again, you have to strengthen your local economy. That is why Nigeria have not been able to benefit from the African Continental Trade Agreement, because when you look at production in Ghana, production in Togo, production in Benin, production in Nigeria will be a dumping ground for those goods, and most Nigerians would rather buy their goods because it will be cheaper and even sometimes will be better than ours own because of our own cost of production, which have listed some of the factors. So I think we need to look at those costs of production, then government looking at giving some businesses that have impact on the life of Nigeria, even if they say they don't want to have that again, tax holidays, that will also help them to become more productive. But the key thing is let interest rate come down and let government be able to enact a good local policy, like the Nigerian first policy, like the reduction in tariff for agriculture, food item, and also agricultural machineries. All this will help the local economy as well as the local industry to be able to compete globally and also be able to be stable when you even have those inflow of these large companies.
All right, I would have to leave the conversation here this morning. Thank you so much, Mukhtar Mohammed, for your insights into the conversation this morning. We appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jibola. Good morning, all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because we've been speaking with our guest this morning. Mohammed Mukhtar is the CEO Finance with Mukhtar, also a financial management consultant. It means that, yes, even though government is on the right path, there needs to be more consolidation, there needs to be more friendly policies that would translate all government is doing to the pockets and perhaps tables of the ordinary Nigerian. We'll take a quick break. When the conversation returns, it will be the turn of Adebimpe to take us through her Lagos conversation.